So the aircraft has been through a pre-buy. And a lot of that in this environment has a lot to do with capacity and things like that. But under normal conditions, it could be dictated where the owner wants to go, where you're advising, the type of aircraft and all that sort of thing. So two things. How are you talking to your clients, customers, friends on what they're about to expect? Because once the deal's done and everybody shook hands and moved away, they're flying it, they got to maintain this aircraft. Unlike their car or anything else, this is a whole new experience. So kind of walk through that process of what makes a great shop, the value of relationships, credibility, pedigree of the shop, and what the owner has to do going forward. How do you break the news that, perhaps once a year or more, you're going to be doing things to it? How's that work?
To address it from the shop angle, what makes a great shop? Number one, at least in my book, is communication. Now, you've got to assume competence, because we're going to avoid any shop that's not competent from a maintenance standpoint. So assuming all the shops that we're talking about are going to be competent and legal and correct,
your bare bones standard at that point.
Right. So from there is where you get into things like communication, how smoothly things go, how quickly things go. There's some really great shops that we don't use because they just can't do it fast enough. Mm-hmm. I have some friends that have a great shop in Texas. If I took a pre-buy to them, it'd probably take 5 or 6 weeks. In most circumstances, that's just too long. Mm-hmm. So all of those things weigh into what a great shop is. So even amongst great shops, there are factors that differentiate those shops. From a pre-buy standpoint, we prefer that the airplane that's going to, or the shop that's going to be maintaining the airplane, do the pre-purchase inspection. That way, you develop that relationship, you build that relationship, and you just continue that relationship on. We have clients that fly from all over the country back to some of the Stevens Aerospace shops because that's where the pre-buy was done, and they develop that relationship, and they're comfortable with them. From a maintenance standpoint, the ongoing maintenance of an airplane, that's airframe specific, of course. King Airs are very easy to explain. You have the factory maintenance program, which is 4 inspections, a phase 1, 2, 3, and a 4. And so I just go through the process of explaining what that looks like. Every 12 months, you have to do one of those inspections. Within 24 months, you have to do all 4 of them. Because of that, most people, depending on how much they're flying, elect to do a 1 and a 2 on year 1 and a 3 and 4 on year 2. So we typically do all 4 of those phase inspections as a pre-buy, so that resets the clock. Okay. So 12 months after they've been in for pre-buy, they can go in and do a 1 and 2.
Unless they're flying a lot.
Unless they're flying a lot, yeah. So there's 200-hour limit on that phase 1. So if they're flying over 200 hours, then that's going to drive a phase 1, and things get a little bit more complex there. I would actually like to see Beechcraft modify that and give us 300 hours would make a big difference. But maybe you guys wouldn't like to see that, I don't know. So but that's just the basic annual inspection. So people that come from the piston world, they're familiar with that term annual.
Right.
We typically, some model manufacturers, we typically don't use that language a lot in the turbine world.
That's
right. I've told people for years we don't do annuals on turbine airplanes, but then a couple of manufacturers started calling them annual, so they kind of shot that.
Even though they're coming in once a year, it's not an annual. Yeah.
So that's the annual maintenance that's required on a King Air, but there's also life-limited components to consider, there's engine TBOs to consider, and then there are the calendar items that we typically refer to as the 5 and 6 year items.
The biggies.
Gear, props, hoses, the biggies. But then there are some smaller inspections and items that are life limited, either by calendar or by hours. So you really need someone that's managing that aspect, where it's the pilot that's managing it, a management company that's managing, or the maintenance facility that's tracking those maintenance events for you to keep up. And that's on a King Air, one of the simplest airplanes to keep and maintain, one of the most predictable airplanes there is. When you get into the jet world, you're in a whole different ballgame. I can't even accurately explain what your maintenance is going to be because the manufacturers have made it too complicated. In the old days of legacy citations, it was a phase 1 through 5. I could explain that just as easily as I just explained the King Air maintenance. I can't explain Dock 1 through Dock 78 or whatever they have now, and to make it even more complicated, a Dock 8 on one airplane and Dock 8 on another airplane aren't the same in section. So.
Good news is we can explain that, so yeah, you're covered there.